Okay, so look, I know in the end I said of my last video I said I was gonna play mage, but I mean I'm kind of addicted to the bruiser. It's really rough right now playing bruiser and it gets really frustrating, but I just find the bruiser more fun and the mage just seems a little boring in comparison, so I think it's safe to say I'm all about the bruiser. But also I had an idea for a video series that I thought would be kind of cool to try out, so it's rekindled my passion, so to speak, for dueling. So since about, I'd say, episode 10, I've been dueling, but I haven't been like super committed to it. Like, I've been doing duels every week, but nothing like I was in the first 8 episodes where I saw my biggest gains. And so I kind of wanted to go back there as a bruiser and really focus on dueling. And then the idea I wanted to test was, does getting really good at dueling make you better in other areas of the game, like OPR, wars, and arena? So my focus right now is to become a really solid bruiser, like one of the best out there, hopefully, fingers crossed, and then see if that reflects in my performance in, say, arenas and OPR. So what I've been doing is I've been collecting the amount of damage I do in every OPR, what position I finish, how many kills I get, how many deaths I get, and then I'm going to compare it over time. So as I go through and I keep dueling every day for like hours and I get better at dueling, I want to see if my stats start to improve as a measurement. So this is going to be like the 30-day series or the 60-day series on does dueling make you better in other areas of the game. So expect more uploads from me because I'm going to be dueling a lot, and this video is my days 1 to 3 because I've been dueling a lot for 3 days now. I just want to say too, there's going to be like a tier system. So once I feel like I'm doing really well in duels, I'm going to start to sort of filter in more arenas, because I feel like arenas are going to allow me to be good in those sort of, you know, small skirmishes, like you might have 2 or 3 people on you at one time, but not more than that. So, and then once I start doing well in arenas, then I'm going to start to filter in like OPRs, and then see how well I do in OPRs as well. A bit more focused on OPRs. I'm always going to be focused on dueling a lot, but then I'm going to sort of filter in arenas, and then when I'm doing well there, I'm filtering more OPRs, then I'm going to filter in more wars. So that's kind of the tier system, that's the long-term plan. But right now, I'm going to focus on duels mostly, like 90% of the time I'm just going to be dueling, but I'm also going to be doing OPRs just to measure, like I said, my damage, where I'm scoring compared to the rest of the team, to see as I improve in my dueling, does that reflect in other areas of the game like the arenas and the OPRs. Okay, so as I said, here we are, this is day 1, and so this is one of the first duels I had, and I just had a good dueling session with, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Sestinov. And a lot of these fights I'm going to show you where I lose and then where I win. But in a lot of those duels, I lose a lot, and I might only get like 1 or 2 wins at the end when I start to figure them out. But I kind of want the series to be a little bit of to be showing that point where I am showing kind of what I'm learning in my dueling sessions, and how to overcome the opponent, and then how I sort of use that to get a win. So this was one of those cases where I finally get a win after lots of losses. So I found, obviously on the first day, I hadn't really been dueling seriously for a long time, so my dodging and just avoiding stuns was absolutely terrible. So on the first day I just kept getting caught out in stuns, like you can see there. I actually get quite good here because I get really low. You can see I'm really low, and really I've basically lost the duel at this point. But because I'm so low, I start paying a lot more attention to trying not to be hit and making sure that I can get my little sneak attacks in on him, and then I get away. And so by being quite elusive and just doing those little sneak attacks that I'm doing, and just making sure that I'm not getting hit, I actually end up winning the duel, which is pretty good going. But yeah, it's just like, so I can focus on avoiding those stuns. I just need to really pay attention. And I just noticed on day 1, yeah, that was definitely where I was letting myself down. Just noobish mistakes, getting caught by the stuns. And so one of the things I've really realized that I need to do is just really slow my tempo down. I've mentioned this in other fights where I just need to really slow the speed of my attacks down. If you do that, you'll avoid stuns way more. When you're trying to rush your swings, sometimes you'll be mid-swing and then they go to stun you and you get caught out by it. If you slow the pace down of your swings, you'll often like not get caught out by those stuns, and you can avoid them like 99% of the time. So this is against Neutral Face. This is one of those really long sessions that I had against him where I was just losing over and over again. And there, one of the things I learned in order to beat him was just to sort of slow the tempo down, take my time. It's very much a less is more concept. The more you try to do, the more mistakes you can make. So just keep it nice and chill, nice and slow. If you start trying to rush through all your big attacks, you'll often miss them. And so what I've been learning to do, what I was learning to do in the first day was just pace myself, slow my attacks down, and don't try to rush all my big attacks early on. Kind of use them when it's the best time, not just because you're kind of a little bit nervous and you want to, you know, just try to catch them unawares. So, yeah, so after fighting Neutral Face for a very long time and dying, I finally managed to beat him by just slowing the pace down a little bit, and ensuring that I'm just consistently getting my attacks up and trying to make sure he didn't get his off. One of the things I also did was I found this guy called Error Code, and we're roughly the same level, I'd say, in terms of fighting. I'd say he's slightly better. But that's actually kind of the perfect situation, because you get enough wins in your fights to kind of keep you motivated to keep fighting for long periods. It's not like you're just losing 30 in a row, which can be a bit disheartening. But because they're slightly better, you're kind of having to improve more than, you know, like, because often when you're fighting someone that you can beat over and over, you don't learn as much as when you're losing. So me and Error Code have had a lot of fights over the last, this is obviously still day 1, but we've fought on day 2 and day 3, so it's been kind of cool fighting him. And we're always having really close fights, which is just so, like, much fun, like, because you're just really engaged. So I've been having a lot of fun fights with him. But one of the things here is I noticed that I was just not, you can hear me kind of moaning a little bit, fuck's sakes. And so I actually increased my DPI, because I had been playing Mage, so it was a little bit low. Because what I found was when I was sort of turning around to because they'll be trying to reposition around me, and as I try to reposition to them, it just wasn't quick enough. So I increased my DPI up a little bit to help with that, so I don't have to move the mouse as far. And you can see now, like, even just with that, you can see how my movement is a lot better, although I'm stupidly getting caught out by stun. So I still, you know, this is day 1. But here you can see now that I've increased the DPI, I'll just start in slow motion, I hit him, and then I can dodge right behind him and get the attack, which I wasn't able to do before because my DPI wasn't high enough. And repositioning behind your opponents basically is like a free attack, right? Like if you can reposition behind them and get an attack off, and then they miss their attack because they're swinging air, well, that's just a free hit you've got. Also, if you're standing behind them, you're going to crit. And then with the Great Axe, you get a little bit of a heal from that as well. So I increased my DPI, and then because I also noticed on day 1 that a lot of the good people were just running circles around me, and I was just hitting air a lot. And so that's why you saw me before increase my DPI, and then I can start playing the same style against them, and then they're hitting air. So yeah, but I think on day 1 I was just trying to do that, and every time I tried to do that, I'd end up getting stunned because I'd be so focused on my positioning, so it was a matter of trying to get those things together. So on day 2, my dodging was slowly getting better. You'll see in this video that I'm starting to avoid a lot more of their attacks than I was on day 1. So even in that short space of time, I could feel the difference. But one thing I just want to discuss is, if you remember in my last video, on my last Bruiser video, I talked about Do Nothing, the rat, the scumbag, the sly, the dishonorable. Well, I'm just gonna not tell you about what happened. I'll just do a little bit of a flashback to what happened, and then I'll tell you how I got my revenge. Controversial one. And just so you know, me and Do Nothing are friends, so, you know, what I'm about to say about him, just take it as a bit of tongue-in-cheek, because I really like the guy, I really rate him, but very unimpressed by his antics in one of these duels, which we'll get into shortly. But essentially, I'd been dueling Do Nothing for hours and hadn't beat him once. He's playing a Sword and Shield Rapier. He used to play a Sword and Shield Spear until it got nerfed. So I started using the tactic I just showed with Big Axe swinging. I noticed that when he would he'd do his little attacks on me, and if I did my little, I'll show it here. So he goes for the attack, and then I dodge behind him, and then do the attacks. And I noticed that was sort of putting him off a little bit. So I was actually having some quite success with that. So this is where the controversy begins. So you can see that I was also staying really aggressive on him. I found that really helped just to be really on him. So I was really aggressive. I was making sure I was dodging his stuns, looking out for that riposte. So now I get him really low, and then look what happens here. Do Nothing. You should be ashamed of yourself. He runs away while using his shield skill to heal himself up. Oh. Well, let's just say my moment arrived where I was able to seek my revenge on this dirty little rat. Alright, back to day 2, back to more honourable people. Here I have been having a dueling session with Dark Monster, and I hadn't won any fights up until this point. And so I've been getting closer and closer, but no dice, he just kept catching me out. So he's a tough opponent. So it's good though, this is how you learn. But I just keep getting caught out in the stuns, and he just hits so hard, so you've got to really be playing the perfect game. So here we go down. This is literally the last fight I was going to fight of him, and it's all about that same thing that I've been saying, is you just got to slow it down. So you can see there, I'm just slowing down my attacks, not getting caught by his attacks, and then just applying the right pressure at the right time. I'm lucky I managed to get him in a stun. So one of the things too is you see how I fought in that grab well. So it's really, really important to be able to, Chippy actually taught me this. It's not to try to get out of the grab well, but just to time your dodge so you can dodge when it goes off, so you can carry on fighting in it. So I found that's really important. And I've been sort of practicing that in my duels. But I managed to catch him in a lucky stun there, and then I get to end our long dueling session with a win, which I was quite happy about. So some of the lessons that were coming home on day 2 was that less is more approach that I keep going on about. Just, you can see that my swing speed has slowed down, but also I'm not trying to rush my attacks. I'm letting him do all his attacks. There he runs out of stamina, so I try to punish him for it. But I'm letting him rush through all his main attacks, and then when I see him run out of stam, that's when I try to get my attacks off on him. Or if I see a moment where I can try to catch him, I will use my attacks, but I'm quite happy just light attacking and making sure I'm dodging a lot of his attacks, which I actually don't do very well there. But yeah, right now though, I'm just keen to finish the kill, so I think I start to speed up, and then he actually is able to get some attacks off on me. So yeah, but I actually do finish off the fight. You can see I'm getting a little bit frustrated because he's like running away. I don't understand that with bruisers. It's like when I'm low on health, I just keep fighting. I'm like, I will never stop swinging that axe. Doesn't matter, you know, it's bruiser life, right? So it's another good example of that here, where I'm not rushing my attacks. You can see that my swing speed is just so much more slower than in the previous fights. Just taking it easy. I'm letting him use all his attacks. I haven't blown any of mine yet. I'm just dodging all his big attacks. And then you can see here, I see here that he's run out of stamina, and this is where I start planting all my big attacks off on him. I go for the Gravwell, do my Maelstrom, charge into him. And so now he's just taking so much damage, and his stam is he's still kind of recovering. So now I've got a big advantage over him because I've just put heaps of damage into him. So I finished the fight off. And I've noticed that this is really, really helping me in OPR already. And that's showable both in my stats as well. But you can just see that when I slow it down, I'm slowing it down, and I'm just keeping my eye on the opponent much more, just because I've been dueling, I've got my eye in, so I'm able to fight much better, and I've just been pulling off much better fights in OPR than what I have been previously. So the dueling is definitely helping. And this is, you can see this even in my stats. So last week, where I hadn't been dueling every day, my average position, bearing in mind that this is including, you know, those real stinker OPRs. Like, no matter what, I'll always record the OPR, even if I've had a real stinker and the team was just zerging us hard, which is usually the case for me. And I'm usually going in with no healer as well, so I'm solo. So last week, my average position was 13th, so not that good. But this week, since I've been dueling, my average position has been 9th in OPR, so a big jump there. My average position last week was 240k. My average damage this week is 382k. Again, I've had one where I've done like 800k, so yeah, I'm getting those ones, but it's just not all the time. It's the average, right? So you're going to have some real stinkers where you're just not doing well, so that sort of brings the average down. My average kills last week per game was 4.6, and this week, since I've been dueling, my average kills is 6.6, and then my average deaths last week in the OPR were 9.4, whereas my average deaths this week so far are 6.2. So already, just from 3 days of dueling, I'm seeing an improvement in my OPR. So this was day 3, and I'm fighting against the big dog Trippy. I had to go for a birthday dinner, so I actually didn't get many duels in on day 3, but I did have a good dueling session with Trippy, who you can see just kicked my butt then. But yeah, definitely noticing even more what I've been saying, just getting my eye in, things really slowing down, not rushing my attacks. Day 3 was just more of that, but just improved. So, you know, in 3 days, I'm definitely noticing a difference. It's not like, you know, it's a gradual change, but I definitely noticed that it's just a lot smoother. But I'm really into dueling, like I'm really looking forward to it at the end of the day. I'm really excited about it. Anyway, hopefully you will enjoy the new series, and I'll see you in a few days with some more duels.